Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, Pete's Carport. Today we got an awesome box filled with a bunch of performance modifications for the 63 Austin Healey Sprite. Now this was ordered separately, but this here is going to be the replacement header for the Weber carb that is in this box here. So the box, I ordered this on off of eBay and won it for really cheap. I got it for like right around 300 bucks shipped. And the gentleman who sold it shipped it out with a bunch of things. And now I'm just trying to go through the box and figure out how everything goes together. He did very well package everything, labeled everything. He kind of separated all the screws. And I believe this is the actual gasket mounts. These are, from what I was able to find online, they are a vibration style, to actually eliminate vibration style gasket. So that's pretty cool that came with it, because those are typically more expensive. And I believe these are the mounting bolts, and these might be some washers that go with that as well. But there's some washers in this bag as well. And there are SKU numbers on some of these, so I can obviously search that and make sure I've got the right part for the right place. Now, he also shipped out the manifold. And a weird thing is he shipped out two. Now, I'm sorry about that. This is the one that I believe mounts up to the carburetor. This is the one with the brand name of the box, which is usually an aftermarket. And I think what he did was he shipped me out the one that came off of the car prior to the Weber carb, or maybe it was a second one he had purchased. I am not sure. But that one doesn't seem to match up to the header that I have. So maybe it was for a different size engine, because he did say it would be compatible with my engine, which is 1098, and also the 1275 engine, which usually they would have a different manifold. These parts I am completely lost on. I'm not sure what that is, but I might be able to search and figure that out. Maybe it's some kind of attachment for an air filter. And then he sent me out another air filter, which is really neat because this is a racing air filter, and they're quite expensive for what I was able to find online, made by ITG. And the other one is made by Uni. Kind of cool little air filters that I can put on. And then down in here is the actual carburetor. It is the 45 series, and I believe it's DOCE or DOEC with the electronic choke. And it looks like it's been used, but it is in amazing shape. And he's got the mounting bracket, it looks like, for the ITG there. So I'm believing that's what that mounts there. And then those gaskets should, let me set this down here so I don't drop anything. These gaskets should mount right up to that plate there, and then that should mount to the manifold. So there's a lot of screws and stuff in here too for, there's some instructions, and then he's got all of the hardware right here for the linkage, and then some instructions. So I'm going to go through this now. I just wanted to fill you guys in. I got a great deal, about 300 bucks shipped out, and got the 45 series Weber carb, which is going to give us significant power increases once we do some more modifications. I also have a new head with larger valves on it that we're going to be installing with some roller rockers on there as well too. So we'll get to that in another video. But let's get started. I'm going to start mounting all this together. I may bring this over to my mechanic just to make sure I do have all the proper gaskets and everything hooked up before I mount anything. But I'm going to look through everything now. I'm going to come back to you guys and show you guys what I came up with. So let's get started on tackling removing the original SU carbs. Now, like I said earlier, this is the first time I've really tackled any sort of job like this, working on an older vehicle with carburetors, specifically dual carburetor setup here, going to a single carburetor setup. But it's like any mechanic, so don't be afraid to dive into this. Just kind of look at everything. Keep in mind, this is always going to be much easier than a modern car with lots of electronics. You don't have to worry about check engine lights popping up and all sorts of things that are going to not allow you to drive your vehicle the way you want. Now, I'm hoping I can get some light down in here. Hold on one second. I'm going to get some light for you guys. Okay, now I've got some light. So basically, the way that this carburetor set up is it goes to, these both go to an intake manifold. There is a plate in between, which is like a heat shield. You've got some fuel lines and everything that connect to it. This is the cooling line that we kind of modified, and that was attached to these two bolts here. So I pulled that off so we could access, you got 1, 2, 3, 4. I think there's 5. There's 6 total, I believe, bolts down here. But if you look closely, this is the intake manifold right here. This black rod right here. It is attached kind of in between the exhaust manifold, which is kind of like a header. So it's the stock one. We're going to be replacing that with an aftermarket header, and our new intake is going to go on very, very similar to these two. So it's kind of strange. You've got 2 intake and 2 basically going out your outtake exhaust manifold. So what we need to do is get to these 4 bolts right here, and we'll be able to pull our carburetor assembly off with the intake manifold. We may have some other bolts that are attached to this heat shield and some other lines like the throttle cable that's here that we're gonna have to take off, but we'll get to that as soon as we're able to remove this. What I found is it's 13mm bolts. So in case you're doing this at home, it could be different. A lot of times these are modified. These are old cars, so it could be different size bolts somebody put in there, but I have 13mm. They're pretty easy to get to right now, so I'm just going to get down in there and get those off and then fill you guys in as we go. Okay guys, so I got the carburetor and the intake manifold resting up here. I just got to pull the throttle cable off that. Everything else has been taken off. It's really just a basically a vacuum line that comes from right over there over to here that comes off. Other than that, it's pretty self-explanatory. One gas line going into it. There is a broken stud here, so I'm going to try to get that out and replace that stud so that our intake manifold will rest up nicely. There actually wasn't even a washer on that, just a small bolt, different style bolt too than what was on the rest. So really it's just taking the gasket off here, which I have a new one obviously. But in the meantime, I want to get this whole engine area cleaned down since I've got all this off. You can also see I just put the exhaust manifold slash header off to the side. It is a lot different than the one that we're going to be putting on there, and we are going to be gaining quite a bit of flow out of the engine once our new one goes on there. It's a 3-to-1. I don't know why earlier I said 2 out, 2 in, but your intake's 2 in and your exhaust is 3, which is really strange because it's a 4-cylinder. So that is strange to me seeing that. I'm typically used to seeing like an 8-cylinder with 4 on each side. So I'm not sure why they have it set up like that, but I'm sure somebody will fill me in and I can be a little educated on that. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and get this all area cleaned up. I do have new gaskets. We're going to get our header put on. I'm probably going to have to pull the exhaust, which I don't know if you can see down in there, completely out because nothing's going to line up. And we'll be running with just the header when we start it up, which is kind of cool because we'll be able to hear how that sounds. And I'm going to have a custom pipe fabricated. I'm trying to go a little bit bigger than what's the stock one so we can push out more air, hopefully get a little more horsepower. So stay tuned. I'm going to go ahead and get all this cleaned down, and then we're going to start putting our header and exhaust or intake manifold on, and then mounting our carburetor. Okay, so quick fill-in. I kind of mocked it up. I do not have any of the gaskets on here, but I was trying to get away with not having to take that broken bolt out just because I'm unsure of how it's in there. I might have to drill it out, but as you can see, there's no way it's going to be able to grab any sort of nut or anything like that. So I'm going to try to figure something out that I can do, maybe even screw a really big nut onto there and then go through that nut with another bolt. I'm not sure, but I'm going to talk to the guys down at the, I'm going to call a couple people and maybe go down and talk to somebody at an auto parts store on what I should do. But in the meantime, I wanted to show you guys how this mocks up. I mean, the header that I got is so much bigger, so much more airflow than what we were getting stock. It barely got down into that area, but it did fit nicely. I did definitely have to pull the exhaust off. But I really just wanted to update you guys where I was at, how this nicely matches up. As you can see, the intake manifold, I do have a gasket for that as well as the gasket for the exhaust manifold, is a lot different than the way that the old one went on. The old one, basically, the intake mounted directly to it, and they didn't have a gasket. This one kind of squeezes between the header, and so you're going to need a gasket for in between there just to keep things nice and sealed. And so this might be a lot different than anything you guys are putting on if you found this video and you're looking to put on one of these carbs. But I really like the header I found. I found it on eBay. It was used. They didn't have much information, but I paid like 60 bucks for it. So I was very happy about that. And same thing with the carb and the intakes and everything. Found that on eBay. So very satisfied with what I got so far. I'm going to go ahead and finish getting everything kind of put in. I'm going to figure out that bolt situation, and we'll be right back, guys. Okay guys, so I went ahead and grabbed the carburetor, and I wanted to show you the kit that I bought. Came with these really neat rubber gaskets that are like a rubber and a plastic, and these just slide right on here. Once again, I put the Loctite in there. I do have these washers, these spring washers that are going to go on, and then there's some nuts that go on. So now I'm going to slide the carburetor on, I'm going to put these spring washers on, and then the nuts on, tighten everything up, and then we're going to be rerouting the gas line. And I believe the way that it looks like it's going to be set up, the gas line, unfortunately, is going to come out this way. So I'm going to have to figure out a way to get the gas line to come back down without crimping it. And so I might need to get a formed gas line or something from the store that will work. So hang tight. I'm going to go ahead and get this put on. I just wanted to show you guys how that's going to go. All right, guys. So success started right up. It's idling nice. As you can see, I rerouted really nicely all the gas lines. Do not have the throttle cable on yet, but it is running very, very rich, I believe. Because once I give it gas, it wants to stall. Unless I ease into it. But that's going to be for the next episode. We're going to set up our throttle cable, the linkage, and we're going to tune this carb. So stay tuned for the next episode, guys. Thanks again. My name's Pete. This is Pete's Carport. I absolutely love the way that this thing is sounding. Now this is just straight header right up underneath the car, so we're going to be working on some sort of exhaust, but I'm excited to hear how this thing is going to roar down the street. Thanks again, guys. Have a great day. Like, subscribe, and share.